Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland, and I'm continuing my series about why the UK should not pay reparations to Hindustan. If anything connected to the British Raj is so vile, why is India a member of the Commonwealth of Nations, which is a successor organisation of the British Empire? Indeed, the previous Secretary General of the Commonwealth was an Indian. I think India really ought to host the Commonwealth Heads of Government conference. It's a way for India to emphasise her coming superpower status, make herself more powerful vis-à-vis China. Indeed, India has hosted the Commonwealth Games. Claims for compensation from the UK might deserve a hearing if they've been made promptly. There were many state visits by Her Britannic Majesty, state visits by the President of India to the UK, and the subject was never, ever broached. Why is it brought up only 70 years later? It doesn't make much sense. So talking about Dr. Shashi Tharoor, who advocated so eloquently for reparations at the Oxford Union, he very much undermined his own line of reasoning by saying £1 a year for the next 2 centuries would suffice, so long as the principle of contrition were established. He treated the whole thing as a wheeze. Is it a rhetorical device? Is it just attention seeking for electoral purposes? If he cared so much for the tens of millions of people who still dwell in penury in India, he would not airily dismiss the notion of serious compensation and suggest they should get an ob. The paltry sum he suggested indicates that his argument is bereft of all sincerity. So I'm saying that the UK shouldn't pay a rupee or a paisa or an anna. Now, some will disagree with me. So what I propose is that in the United Kingdom a fund is opened, and those who agree with Dr. Tharoor can donate. People voluntarily pay in as much as they feel they should and can afford. And we'll see how much is raised. And who pays who? What about British Indians? Do they pay or do they receive? Non-resident Indians, do they receive as well? And as Dr. Tharoor is London-born, he should be paying too. So people who believe in this, if they're British watching this video, put your money where your mouth is and make sure it goes to needy people in India, not billionaires, of whom there are plenty. India is independent, and rightly so. India is completely capable of self-governing, was before the British Raj and so on. So the Republic of India has many magnificent achievements. It's a splendid country that I hold in the highest possible regard. It's a very free country as well as being independent. A country can be independent and unfree, or can be free but not independent. So people foolishly conflate freedom and independence. These need not go together, they can be opposites. So we all know India is on the cusp of being a superpower and richly deserves a permanent place on the UN Security Council. It's been British policy for several years that this ought to happen. Simply to keep India sweet, it might be judicious for the UK to shell out some compensation, even though, as I've outlined, it's not called for, it's not deserved, it's not logical. Perhaps the United Kingdom will one day become a colony of India, and the UK might benefit from that. She might be better governed. It's a pity that the British Isles was not colonised by India centuries ago, long before the British Raj, when the UK was ahead. Because, when India was ahead, was more civilised and had more scientific discoveries, invented maths and chess and all the rest of it. It's notable how some Indian traditions come from the UK. Tea drinking, tea's Chinese of course, and the British have learnt much from India, adopting more than a few Indian words into the English language. And you'll know that some colonial administrators were fascinated by India, intrigued by the richness of Indian culture, and by the brilliance of Indian scholarship, reading the ancient Sanskrit texts and so forth, and were fascinated by Indian law and various religions. Law, that's not jurisprudence, but jurisprudence too. Look at Sir William Jones. So I realise that some Britishers in India were arrogant, were racist, and there was a negative side to the Raj, but as I say, it's the other side in this debate are tasked with adumbrating that, not me. My mission is to advocate for. I'm putting my case. So all those who think that the UK should pay compensation to India, if they are British, they ought to be sending their own money. There is nothing to prevent Britishers who are watching this video from stumping up cash right now